What's up, everyone? So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Denzel Mensah, and I'm an ENFJ. I've been studying Myers-Briggs, cognitive function theory, and the people in my life, especially, for probably 3 years now in depth. And so, after all of these studies and reading numerous ENFJ descriptions and INFJ descriptions, and then looking at my behavior, hearing what other people have to say about me, also looking at other ENFJ's behaviors, and looking at what people online have to say about ENFJs, and even ENFJ characters, yeah, I just really wanted to make this video, basically talking about all of the paradoxes, the problems that we face, and the patches, like some solutions, because I can't just present all these problems and then not have some solutions. Since we're all NI users over here, then I'm pretty sure that you'll have the attention span to sit down and actually watch the whole thing. And I don't think that I'm a boring person, hopefully. So, yeah, let's get started. First of all, for those of you who may not know, the ENFJ composes of four cognitive functions, and these are not to be confused with the four dichotomies, such as extrovert, intuitive, feeling, judging. That's the dichotomies, like the letters, the individual letters, but the ENFJ, just like every other personality type, has four cognitive functions or mind wiring processes, and there's eight in total. And so to list these off, we have extroverted feeling, which is the ENFJ's dominant function. Then we have introverted intuition, which is the ENFJ's auxiliary function or secondary function. Then we have extroverted sensing as the ENFJ's tertiary function. And then we have introverted thinking, which is the ENFJ's inferior function or last of the four. All of these functions mean an individual different thing, and depending on where it is in your stack, it also has a lot to do with like how adept and how strong you are using that function, how it comes out, and also comes to like development. Like, so for example, just because introverted thinking is our last function does not mean that we do not know how to think logically. It just means that it's something that takes a longer time for us to like use, and we're just not good. It mainly just means that we're not good at extracting the human component from, like, we don't like just looking at raw data. We like to look at how people feel about it, and the biases and all of that. But yeah, in general, if you guys want to like look at more information about the cognitive functions, you can look at my videos on the perceiving functions and the judging functions. I talk a lot about those. Also, some good websites to look at are personalityjunkie.com, typeinmind.com, and personalityhacker.com. They talk about the cognitive functions a lot, and Personality Hackers podcasts are absolutely phenomenal, so you guys should definitely look at that. Shout out to Antonia Dodge and Joe Markowit. They're awesome people. But yeah, this isn't going to be a video talking like, I just breezed over these functions just so that you guys can, like get an idea of like what to look for. So yeah, FE, extroverted feeling, NI, introverted intuition, SE, extroverted sensing, TI, introverted thinking. So I'm going to do the rest of this video hoping that you at least have a good understanding of what these functions are. By the way, I just want to make this disclaimer that a lot of types will be able to relate to the things that I'm going to be saying in here. So I don't want to make it seem as if like, oh, us ENFJs, we're the only ones that'll be able to understand these traumas of life. But I will say that the ENFJs will probably relate most heavily to most, if not all, of the things that I mentioned. And other types will be able to be more like, oh yeah, this sounds more like me, but like to a degree. Oh yeah, I definitely resonate with that, but not necessarily with that. And so, just a heads up. So the first thing on my list is FE being selfish and selfless simultaneously. This is incredibly true. FE is all about maintaining social dynamics and social norms and being, polite, meeting other people's needs first and foremost, and putting our needs in the back seat so that we can make other people happy, and, maintaining harmony, creating harmony, and understanding social dynamics and social interplay, how we emotionally affect each other, all of that. And so, in doing this, FE users tend to be very, very like helpful to other people, because that's kind of like how that's kind not even kind of that is how we receive our energy. We receive our energy from helping other people, from making other people happy, from creating social harmony and all of that. And so, in a way, from being selfless, we are actually being selfish. And this comes out as selfishness when we are now dealing with people who, for example, they aren't willing to vent or aren't willing to allow us into their personal lives to help them out. And so then we end up being like, oh man, like, why won't you just let us help? And it bothers us because we see this great opportunity to help the person, which is the betterment for them, but then also it's a betterment for us too, because we are feeding off of helping that person. And if they're not granting us that opportunity to help them, then we are also being robbed of our opportunity to get charged up. And so, in a way, us being selfish with wanting to help people is us also being selfless in wanting to help people. That's kind of what FE is, because it's all about like harmony. It's all about win-wins. And so, hey, you win because I got to help you, and I win because I got to help you. My FE was now fed. And I think that's a very paradoxical situation. So I'm sure that a lot of like ENFJs, ESFJs, INFJs, and ISFJs can relate to this. Like, when we are stripped of a way to help people, then we're like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And it's just really, dissatisfying. So that's one of the paradoxes that I've noticed, and we literally just cannot help ourselves from helping people. I remember watching The Blacklist, and Raymond Reddington, for those of you who don't know, he is an ENFJ. If you learn about the cognitive functions, and you'll be able to understand, like, he's not your typical ENFJ, of course, like, he doesn't match like a lot of the descriptions that you'll see online, but you'll definitely see that he uses a lot of FE, definitely an NI user, and he definitely uses SE, like how he dresses and all of that, and his TI is also very developed as well. There's one episode that I remember watching, it was a while ago, so I can't really like speak on all of the details, but I remember that there was this woman who was just about to go drown, and of course, like I said, other types can relate to this, but she was like throwing herself into the water to like go to like drown, kill herself. And Raymond did not know this woman, but he could not like keep himself from trying to jump in and save her. And she was trying so hard, like for the next few episodes, or like for the rest of that episode, but that episode took on a series of days. He was trying so hard to like help her and everything. He was doing the same thing with Elizabeth Keene, and it just seems like he always needs somebody to be helping, to be protecting, to whatever. And even when they don't want to be protected, even when they don't want to be helped, he's like, let me help you. I relate so heavily to that. This is why I even put out my YouTube videos. In a way, I'm being selfish by being selfless. And by helping you guys, I'm also receiving my high, because I genuinely love helping people. So this doesn't mean that FE users are not genuine. It just so happens to be a paradox that we love to help people, and so therefore we are being selfish in our helping of other people. I hope that makes sense. Another problem that I've noticed us ENFJs tend to have is that because we lead with FE and we have NI as an auxiliary function, then we are just incredible at, painting ourselves in the perfect image for other people, like being like warm, like empathetic, and like really understanding like how we should like come off towards those people, and being like our NI and FE helps us to like really understand people on a deeper level. It also helps us with our communication, and FE literally just shows us, it gives us a natural way of like presenting ourselves in the perfect light. One time Jamila told me that, Denzel, you know who you are? You're that dad that when you go to like a parent teacher conference or something, everybody else would be like, who does he think he is? All the kids like him and blah 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 blah. We're not intentionally doing that, but we just so happen to lead with FE. We want people to like us, and we know how to get people to like us. We know how to behave so that people will not have a problem with us. Plus, we want harmony so badly. So we create it, and we create this, not a facade, but like we just know we have complete control, or more than natural control of our external image. And that intimidates a lot of people, especially when you have an eye, which is very insightful, very focused, very deep. And so then that causes a lot of people to become envious of us as well, because like, oh, not only is he like, perfect at whatever, but now all of a sudden he's really deep too, and he has a lot of insight, and he thinks that he understands me. And it's just like, or she, and it's just like, dang, well, no, I'm not really trying to like create any type of animosity between us, but sometimes it just comes off that way. And I feel like that's really annoying, because especially like with our NI, we're able to foretell future events a lot of times, and especially for ENFJs having it as an auxiliary function, then we know how to create those events. We know how to achieve certain things. We know the exact buttons to push in what order to get certain results from life. And a lot of people do not have this type of ability. NI, if you guys look at my metacognition video, then I explain NI more in depth, as well as my perceiving function video. But in long story short, NI is all about watching your mind form patterns, thinking about what you're thinking about, retracing the thought process of your mind constantly, watching yourself from third person. So once you're doing that, then you become very good at understanding what's going to happen in the future, and understanding like how other people view you, and understanding other people's perspectives, using a lot of metaphors, etc., etc. And you can see how like us constantly doing that can be very intimidating to other people, can be very annoying, because it brings, especially like with us having it as an auxiliary function serving our FE, then it gives us even more insight to other people, and that kind of allows us to come off as like these sages. Like the INFJs get this a lot more, because they're more reserved and laid back and everything, which we're gonna get to. We're gonna talk about that as well. But us ENFJs, I'm positive that we get this a lot as well, because of how like we present ourselves, and oftentimes we hide our NI so that we do not try to intimidate these people. One time I was on the phone with Kylisa, the girl from my ENFX compare and contrast video, and she was telling me, we were sort of like in an argument, and she was like, you know what your problem is, Denzel? I think that you know that you're perfect, and so in order to try and like hide it from other people, then so that they can like you or whatever, then you try to like dumb yourself down. And like I noticed that you do that, and it really annoys me, because then you're trying to like make me like feel like I'm stupid, and it's like, what? No, I'm not. Like I said, we were in an argument, so like she kind of meant that as like in a bad way, but that's how she felt. And I've heard this from like Jamila and Tay. Tay says that I give off an impression that I'm always right, and I don't like brag on it or anything like that. But because like even with Jamila, like when we're like in like arguments or whatever, I can always see her perspective, but I would disagree with it, and I'm just like, okay, I see what you're saying. And then she's like, but you disagree. And I'm not gonna lie, it's like, yeah, I disagree. And she wants me to agree with her. And so then she tries to like keep on bringing me back into the ring, get back into the ring. And Tay's just always telling me, Denzel, you always think you're right, just let people think that they're right for once or whatever. And so oftentimes I have to like hide like what I actually think about things. If I knew that something was going to happen, I have to pretend to act just as surprised as everybody else does, because as Jamila once told me, Denzel, not everybody wants to be around a psychic all the time. And I know that INFJs and INTJs are the ones who usually get the psychic rep, but ENFJs, I'm positive that, unless if you guys don't relate, but I'm positive that we have a lot of that as well. Our NI, in fact, just allows us to get the insight, but we're not as like upfront about it, because our FE knows how, if we were to show this insight that we have, how it would affect other people. And our FE being our dominant function, we do not want to affect people in a negative fashion. And so that's why we tend to like hide our insights and our future telling abilities a lot. So if anything, we're just more like disclosed. Is that the word? We hide it more, but we are definitely just as insightful as the INFJ and the INTJ. And like I said, we're going to get there. So the third thing I'm going to talk about is how us ENFJs tend to hate small talk, but because of our FE, then we tend to sort of put up with it. I realized that I just really, 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 really hate conversations that do not have substance. I hate shows that do not have substance. I hate books that do not have substance. Like anything that just seems like it's just filling the air, it annoys me. But when I engage in small talk with other people, because I'm an FE Dom, then I know that this is a social norm. I know that in order to get to like deeper conversations, sometimes you have to have small talk. And I know that in order to keep my influence and my impact on other people, then I have to engage in small talk with them, so that they can continue to see me in the light that they do see me, which goes back to what I was saying previously about maintaining my image. And that way, when it comes to like impacting them, when it comes to like being an influence, then they can actually be like, yeah, he cares. It's kind of like looking at the bigger picture once again, like, okay, yes, I hate small talk. Why are we talking about the weather? Why are we talking about Tay's hair? Whatever it is. But because I know that behind this, coming from this small talk, in the future, when they need me, when they need someone, they'll know who to like come to and all of that, and it's gonna continue to like develop my relationship with that person. And knowing how much this small talk may mean to them allows me to be able to put up with the small talk for them. And I think that this is something that a lot of like ENFJs like can relate to. Our FE just knows that small talk is annoying but necessary, and so we just put up with it. So point number 4 is analyzing while immersed or extroverting. So people mistake us for just being unaware when we are truly more aware than most other types. Once again, we tend to fall sort of like in the shadow of like other types. Like other types think that we're not as observant, or we're not like as insightful, or whatever it may be, just because we talk. The thing is, we as ENFJs have introverted intuition right above extroverted sensing, and these two always come together as a pair. Nobody has introverted intuition without extroverted sensing. And ours being right on top of each other, on top of us being FE DOMs, so extroverts already, that means that when we are extroverting, then we are perceiving information much more quickly, because our SE is allowing us to be able to get in real time all of the details of what exactly is going on at that moment. And then it's right underneath our NI, which is way stronger than our SE. So it serves our NI very heavily and gives us insight and data in real time about what's going on, which is what allows us to be able to speak everything that we speak so fluently, and we know exactly like what to say, we know how things are going to play out, and it allows us to understand the person that we are talking to, or to the people that or understand the people that we're talking to, and whatever situation it is, while we're still talking. Just because I'm not sitting there like and just like observing and being quiet doesn't mean that I'm not woke to what's going on. In fact, contrary, I'm probably more woke than you are about what's going on while I'm still cloaking that in like talking and extroverting. I see this a lot with Raymond Reddington. When he's talking to all of his, clients or his friends or, other people, he knows exactly what's going on. And it looks like he's just like talking and, speaking nonsense. Ha 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 ha. Elizabeth, there used to be a bird that blah 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 blah, and it just seems like he's just like saying stuff, but his NI and his SE are at work and they're gathering all the information that's going on right now and telling his FE exactly what to do. And so he's completely aware of what's going on, and that's how he's able to carry out all of those missions. Compare that to Tom, who's INFJ in the show, and he sort of operates in a similar fashion. Yes, he's more quiet or whatever. He's developed his FE very well, and so he's able to use his FE and his NI in the reverse type of order, where it's like he gathers the information first and then he just goes and uses it. But we can gather the information right there and then because our NI and SE are closer to each other, so we have a better view, a more clear view of what the external world is actually feeding us than the INFJ would. And then we're able to use whatever our intuition is now being fed more rapidly. That's just one thing that I really wanted to point out. Like, we are not unaware. We know what's going on. And we are completely aware of what we're saying and what other people are saying, what's just going on in the environment. Just because we're talking and it seems like, like we're extroverting a lot does not mean that we're mindless. Another problem with us being ENFJs is that we use other people and what they say about us as mirrors. Because we lead with FE and our auxiliary function is NI, then we tend to know more about other people than we know about ourselves. And so because we tend to like understand other people more than we understand ourselves oftentimes, then we get most of our rapport about ourselves from what other people say about us. This doesn't mean that, there's no way that we can't know about ourselves. It just tends to be a lot harder for us than people like ENFPs, ESFPs, INFPs especially, and ISFPs especially, because introverted feeling is all about like getting to like know yourself, and we have extroverted feeling, which is like about other people and all of that. And then our NI is more about like understanding insights and other people's mindsets as opposed to like understanding our own, even though like we're like understanding how we think, but not necessarily like who we are like at the core. The way that we're able to get our rapport, our information on who we are as people, is we observe what other people say about us, how other people treat us, what these MBTI descriptions say about us, and all of a sudden we're like, oh shoot, that does make sense. And then our NI gathers all of it, and then it's able to assess it and give us a clear picture of like how we actually are. This is best explained on typeinmind.com and personalityjunkie.com. Like, if you guys just go check those sites out, and those are like the best ENFJ descriptions that I've come across to read so far. They really show the depth that we have, and they don't like try and like compare us too much to like other types and everything, but they allow us to have like our own little, not box, but like our own category. And I just really like that. It seems like that it really did us justice. But yes, we use other people sort of as like mirrors to be able to see how we see how we look like in their eyes, and then we use that to clean ourselves up. Another ENFJ problem is that we tend to be deemed as strong, but we actually need probably the most encouragement. This actually reminds me a lot of a conversation that me and my sister had just a couple of days ago. I didn't graduate, unfortunately, because I changed my major, and there's some classes for my major that are only available during the spring semester or fall semester, and so yeah, I have to take an extra year. I was kind of down because everybody else I came into college with, they seemed to be graduating, and then there's me, and it's like, oh dang, what are other people thinking about me? Do they think that I'm stupid? Do they think that like I just slack off on my work, or what it is? I don't know. I hid that feeling like very well, at least in my knowledge. And my sister just hit me up out of nowhere, and she was like, hey dude, I just wanted to let you know that it's okay you didn't graduate today. Not everyone can graduate in college in 4 years. Everyone's different, and some people just need more time. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't mean you're not as smart as anyone who graduated today. It just means you're different. Love you. When I tell you guys that text almost made me shed a few almost made me shed a few tears, bruh. It was exactly what I needed. And I responded to her. I said, wow, well, you're probably the only person that knew I needed that. That's crazy, especially from so far. Man, I'm at a loss of words, but thank you so much for taking the time to tell me this. Like, I really needed it. Haha, wow, you're so good. Wow, oh, haha, I love you too, blah, blah, blah. And this is the kicker. She says, oh, you're going to make me tear up. It's not a problem. Sometimes I think you're strong. You'll be fine, because it's okay, but I forget that sometimes you need words of encouragement too. Everything is going to be fine though. Yeah, you seem so strong, so I forget that you need pep talks, because you're usually the one giving them. That's the ENFJ for you. Because we are so good at knowing how things will play out for other people, and like giving them the pep talks that they need and just being there for them, other people think that we have our lives all under control. Like, oh, what, Denzel? He doesn't need no like encouragement or anything. Like, he's always encouraging other people. He's Superman. Like he got this in the bag. What, Jamie? What, Megan? What, all of the other ENFJs that I know out there? Like, yeah, because we're always giving the people advice, then other people think that, well, who am I to give that person advice? And that is so far from the truth. We just tend to hide so much of how we're feeling because we want to continue to be there for other people. And sometimes it's hard for us to even accept advice from other people. But once we are receptive of it, it is so helpful and it's so good for us because it gives us the time to actually receive back what we're putting out there. I highly recommend all ENFJs out there to find somebody, at least one person, who's looking out for you because you're looking out for the whole entire world. But who is Superman without Lois Lane? Who is Spider-Man without Gwen or without Mary Jane? And I just feel like us being these superhero types or whatever, unintentionally, other types will think that, oh, we have everything under control. We don't need any type of help. But find somebody who you don't even have to ask if they can check on you often or whatever. Just allow them to intuitively know, hey, are you okay? Is everything going on well with you? And be open to that. Be open to their help. Be receptive to their help. And that's just one big huge patch for this problem that we tend to have. Be open. Do not be prideful. Do not think that we often think that we're us telling our problems to other people is a burden to them, and I think that that's something that I'm still getting over right now. I've been yelled at already twice within the last week for that, and it's something that I'm just trying to get past. Hey, Denzel, open up to people. Tell them what's going on. Tell them hey, I'm struggling with this. Now, don't let it just be to anyone, but find somebody that you're close enough with that cares enough for you to actually be willing to listen to you, to help you, and to fight through it with you. Because Superman needs Lois Lane, and Spider-Man needs Mary Jane. We cannot do this by ourselves. We need our inner circle. This concept was also explained very heavily in Personality Hackers podcast for I think it was ENFJ setting boundaries. and personality type advice one as well. They talked a lot about how we're just always the ones who are giving our advice and all of that, but nobody's really like looking out for us. Like we were just handling it so well, and they even used I forgot her name, but from Mad Men, Joan from Mad Men, how she's just always like handling stuff, and then it's like when she finally like breaks down, everyone's like, "Whoa, uh, like what's going on with you?" Like, and I feel like that's just how like we look like to a lot of other types. But for those of you who are of different types, if you know an ENFJ, try to like build a relationship with them and check on them more often. Like, see, like, hey, are you okay? Is everything going smoothly? Like, are you good? Like, and just try and like gain their trust and actually be there for them. I'm sure that it would really help. The next thing that I'm going to talk about, that's kind of like a problem, but it's also a very good thing, is that we take on other people's emotions. There's been so many times where my emotions would just swiftly like just change because somebody around me was like in a bad mood, whether it was sad or mad or whatever. And after like having a conversation with them, I absorbed their emotion. Typeinmind.com speaks very heavily about this, especially since we're not FI users, we're FE users. We tend to not know like what emotion is ours. Like this actually took a lot of practice for me. Like that was one of the things that when I read, I was like, whoa, no way. And it's kind of like we're picking up on other people's like psychic garbage is what Antonia would call it. Antonia Dodge from Personality Hacker. And they tend to associate this a lot with the INFJ. And I believe that's true. But from what I saw, at least from the INFJs that I know, I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that I think that ENFJs actually take on this a lot more than INFJs do from what I see. I think that ENFJs, because our TI is so much at the bottom, and then we have our NI up there and our SC, then it's a lot harder for us to be able to go within and be like, oh my goodness, why am I feeling this way? Oh, I picked up that emotion from Tony when he was like angry earlier or whatever, and we just randomly pick up on other people's emotions. Going back to like my first point about FE being selfish and selfless at the same time, a lot of times because we are so sensitive to other people's emotions, then sort of we tend to want to make everybody else happy so that we can be happy. We keep everybody's feelings on our radar. And so if I am in the midst of people and we're like, like all having fun or whatever, and there's one person who seems to like not be included or seems to not be like having fun or seems to be in a bad mood or whatever, I'm feeling everybody's positive vibes, but that one bad energy that's coming from over there is on my heart. It's like on my back, it's scratching me, and I am inclined to go and talk to that person or somehow make them feel included somehow so that I can now relax. It goes back to the whole like FE being like selfish but selfless at the same time, because it's kind of selfish of me that, oh, I'm just trying to help that person so that I can relax, but at the same time it's still genuine because I want that person to feel better. And so yeah, that's another problem, but I guess it's a good thing for other types that we take on other people's emotions a lot, and it helps us a lot with like being like very empathetic, because NI allows us to see the other person's perspective very well, and then FE allows us to feel what they're feeling and like really like just relate to them in that sense. Next point, and this is probably like the biggest one, we are in the INFJ shadow. I remember reading a post one time, and it basically said something along the lines of, oh, the INFJ is the unicorn, and it's this, and it's that, and blah, blah, blah. And then the ENFJ one was, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it was at the bottom. And it was like, oh, they're kind of like, the INFJ, except not as shiny. Probably just a horse. think that it's a very huge problem in the MBTI world how much INFJs are glorified. I love INFJs. I love you, INFJs. Please don't get me wrong. I really do love y'all. But I'm just so tired of being in your shadow. How can we be in the shadow of our introverted counterparts? You guys are like in the background. So I don't understand that. I've heard stories of like ENFJs all of a sudden claiming INFJ. I know that I am not an INFJ. In fact, I would even be upset if I somehow found out that I was. A lot of people thought that I was introverted originally, like when they met me and everything. So I've definitely developed my NI. I spend time to myself. I read a lot. I do all the stuff that INFJs do, and I have INFJ friends. But yeah, it's just really annoying, like how much INFJs are glorified, and then it seems like we cannot glorify them without bringing ENFJs down. And so, as soon as you like think about ENFJs and how great they are, then you got INFJs to just pop up, and they're like, "Oh, whoa," like, but are you as great as I am, or are you as great as the INFJ? Guys, I cannot make this story up. One time, I was at work, and I was talking to this ENFP girl about MBTI. I was telling her about the cognitive functions because all she knew was the dichotomies, like ENFP, blah, blah, blah. So she was like, oh, okay, so what type are you? And then I was like, I'm an ENFJ. And then she was like, oh, okay, I know there's like an INFJ around here or something like that. What? She was acting as if like this was Pokemon Go or something. Like, oh, okay, that's nice. You're Weedle. But I wonder if there's like a Pikachu around here, some type of rare blah blah blah. Like really, first of all, INFJs supposedly make up 1.5% of the population. Okay. But if anything, ENFJs make up 2.5% of the population as well, according to stats. And so we are probably almost just as rare as the INFJ is. And a lot of people who claim to be INFJ are really not. They are INFPs that are confused, or they're ENFJs who don't understand that extroversion does not mean you have to be like, but it just means that you lead with FE, or they're even ISFPs who have just got INFJ, and a lot of other types that just think that, oh, this description sounds cool, so that, yeah, that's what I am. Get out of here. We are our own type, and you guys are your own type. We love y'all, and we are just as capable as y'all are, just as y'all are as capable as we are. And so that was just a problem that I saw with the ENFJs as well. Heidi Priebe posted on her blog and Thought Catalog, 24 people share the one thing they wish the ENFJs in their lives understood. And I really love number 16. It was an INFJ, and basically she says, and I quote, "Please understand that I'm not competing with you. We both may be good at reading other people, but I'm more interested in understanding how the world works than caring for the people in the way you are. I think we are a powerful combination when it comes to reading the emotional vibes of a room." From that, I really just love how she or he was able to understand that, ENFJs really do tend to fall in our shadow a lot, and I'm sorry that things are that way, but I just want to recognize that you guys are great as individuals, as an individual type, and you do not have to live up to our hype or anything, and we're not better than you, we're not competing with you, just like ENFJs are not really competing with INFJs. I love INFJs. Like I said, I have a special connection with them. I like to liken it to INFJ Jean Grey's and ENFJ Professor Xavier's relationship. So yeah, I don't dislike INFJs. I just really wanted to clarify all of that about us being in the INFJ shadow, in the MBTI community. Like, please stop that. So another problem that I wanted to mention for ENFJs is how we are constantly being yanked in and out of real time by our NI and our SE. It's sort of like playing like a tug of war with us. NI is all about like understanding and thinking about future, and understanding like patterns and insights and all of that. And SE is like total opposite, basically like all about being like in the moment, gathering the details of right now and everything. And since our NI and our SE are like right above each other, then we tend to go from focusing on the person as they're talking and everything to all of a sudden, I wonder if this person's mind is thinking this and blah blah blah. And because of our FE, we're still able to like look focused and they will have no idea that our NI just like yanked us out briefly to gather insight or to process information that they're already giving to us, and then we come right back into real time, kind of like zooming back in, like, and they're like, yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, I actually do. And it's, yeah, we caught everything that you were saying, but we are also processing things like in the background. And so we tend to zone in and out of life. We go randomly into our mind, like, and I'll just like yank us in there and be like, hey, look, this is what I wanted to show you from something that you had just witnessed or you had just seen earlier or whatever like that. This is why I think this happened. And then we're like, oh, okay. And then SE is like, well, come back out here into the real world. And then you're back to being in present. So I don't know how much you guys may relate to that, but I know that that's definitely a thing for me. Third to last thing that I wanted to mention about ENFJs and our problems is that we tend to be mistaken for flirting often. You'll know, in my opinion, if an ENFJ is like flirting with you. But we are genuinely just really nice people. And that's what many types just have to understand. Like, we compliment a lot. Like, if you look at Judy Hopps from Zootopia, she was, oh, I like your dress. I like this. I like that. She was just genuinely a nice person. And that doesn't mean all of a sudden that, oh, we're trying to like get into your panties or something, or we're trying to like have like a long-term relationship with you. If anything, we compliment people of the same gender as well. If I like your hair, if I like the way that you sang, if I like your shoes, your backpack, whatever it is, I'm gonna compliment you for it, because FE is all about how we emotionally impact each other. And I know that if somebody compliments me on whatever, then it'll make me feel good. So a well-placed compliment, and a genuinely well-placed compliment, will make somebody's day better, which is what I want to do oftentimes. If I compliment you, if an ENFJ compliments you, if an ESFJ compliments you, if an INFJ or ISFJ compliments you, that doesn't mean that necessarily they're flirting with you. It just means that they're a nice person that wanted to acknowledge or try and like make you feel better than you probably already were that day. So just be slow to assuming that we are flirting with you. Do not flatter yourself, please. Another cool thing that I noticed about ENFJs is that our NI and TI create awesome analogies and metaphors that make logical sense, and FE and SE help communicate them. I've seen this a lot, like with myself, like literally as I'm speaking, then metaphors just like always come to mind. When ENFJs especially present metaphors, then they tend to make logical sense because our NI is able to really get the image first and foremost. Then our TI sort of like cleans it up to make sure that there's like no like holes or anything in the logic that we're trying to create. And then our SE helps us to create the picture and add all of the, like whatever that's necessary. And then our FE allows us to sort of communicate what's going on in our mind effectively. So ENFJs are known as like the effective communicators of the MBTI community, because we know exactly how to portray the ideas that we have in our minds. One day I was just talking to a friend and I was trying to explain to them like what I do. Like, yeah, like I'm a life coach and I just try to like help people like, oh wow, yeah, it's kind of like cognitive functions are like superpowers. And basically, oh wow, exactly. And I'm basically like Professor Xavier. And what I'm basically doing is I'm trying to help you enhance your superpowers. So, oh wow, here goes another metaphor or whatever. So for example, if you can control metal and you're only able to pick up like microwaves and like nickels and dimes or whatever, I am here to not only show you that you can control metal, if in case if you don't already know it. But now I can show you how not only to just pick up microwaves and nickels and dimes, but you can pick up like a whole football stadium. I'm here to intensify your power in the same way that Professor Xavier intensifies all of his mutants' powers. I used a whole metaphor from that, and I put it in a blog that you can find at dwzy blessed.wordpress.com, and a lot of other metaphors that I use on in my videos and in my blog articles. They just come on the fly, like as I'm just talking to people. We just know how to like make a lot of things like symbolic, and we don't have to sit there and try like what metaphor can I use to further explain what I'm trying to say. It just comes to us as we're talking about it all the time. It even happens in my spontaneous speaking videos. It just pops up. And so that's something that I thought was cool. And last but not least, I wanted to comment on how we are often kicked out of the intuitive circle, and we're known as the most sensing of the intuitives, as if it's a bad thing. The reason why ENFJs are known as the most sensing of the intuitives is because intuitives tend to be very strange, very weird, and people just know, like, oh, there's something off about you. But because we lead with FE, we know how to present ourselves in front of people so that they don't think that we're weird, even though we are on the inside, and you'd have to like get to know us. Like, we still know how to like present ourselves, so we can sort of like do this thing that Antonia Dodge and Joe Mark Witt called intuitive blending, where we hide our intuition, which is easier for us because unlike NPs who have extroverted intuition, NJs have introverted intuition. So it's like an internal process that's harder for you to understand or like see, and it's much easier for us to hide it, especially since it's our auxiliary function. So we can keep our insights to ourselves. We can just, hide all of that or whatever so that people do not think that we're weird. And then on top of that, another reason why a lot of people, the intuitives tend to call us like the most sensing of the intuitives is because unlike most intuitives who just sit down and theorize the whole entire day about, like, oh, what we should do and this, and just have like conversations, because we have SE as our tertiary function, it's all about like, great, you got the information that you need, let's go find a way to put it into the external world. Why are we sitting here talking about this still? Let's try and find a way to make this actually happen. And sensors are usually known as the ones to actually like just carry out things and just make things happen, while intuitives are the ones to like sit down and theorize. Yes, that does sound nice. What if blah 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 blah? Oh yes, that would be great. How about what if blah blah blah? And you're just like talking about all this stuff, but you're not actually doing anything, or it'll take you forever to go ahead and do those things. This is especially for the INFJ, because their SE is last. They tend to have a very strong internal world due to their NI and their TI. But then when it comes to like FE and SE, then they tend to have like a hard time like understanding like what the external world actually looks like, and what's actually going on in the external world, and how much their ideas will be able to be applied over there. So they tend to allow their NI to load up to like basically at least 95% before they're like, okay, now I'm going to take action. As opposed to the ENFJ, who, because we have our NI and our SC like right there, and we're extroverted, so we already know how the external world looks like, then it's much easier for us to carry out our NI insights in our development. And so, just like I said in my ENFJ, INFJ compare and contrast video, the ENFJ and the INFJ tend to end up in the same spot. It's just that the ENFJ is using their NI or their intuition as they go along, as the INFJ is gathering all their intuition and charging it up, so that like as the ENFJ is going like that, then by the end of their lives, then the INFJ just basically goes like that, because they've already planned out every single step, while the ENFJ may not know every single step, but they know what to do as soon as they get there. And so it's the same type of intuition, but they we have more confidence in being able to just go out and like just do it, as opposed to like other intuitive types who may not always be like as confident in what they're doing. We shouldn't be shamed in that way just because we actually go out there and do actions. You know what I mean? Or just because we're more realistic and we have a more realistic view of the external world. We should not be like, oh, well, like it's all right if you want to call us the most sensing of the intuitives. I don't mind that, just as long as you don't say it as if it's a bad thing. Ironically, the ISFP is known as the most intuitive of the sensors. Once again, it's that SE and I thing. Like they're able to have their insights and all of that, but they're still like more in tune like with their body and everything. And that's like like for another video, like you can go look at Jamila's ISFP video. She talks about this. Hopefully, I've provided a lot of information for you guys to like think about. Hopefully, ENFJs will not be known as like as whack or whatever, or in the INFJ shadow, as much as we have been. Like, that's just so annoying. And I just really wanted to clear the air with a lot of this, like, in this video. So for ENFJs that are watching, please subscribe. I'm going to have, like, more videos coming out. And for those of you who are of other types, also subscribe, and I just hope that you guys check out like my other videos, like the ones that I've already put out and the ones I'm going to be putting out this summer and next semester when I go back to school. Spread this video if you can. Leave comments. Like, guys, I hope that I start a really good discussion from this. If you resonate with the stuff that I've said, then let me know. And if you don't resonate with it, respectfully, like let me know if you have like more insight or your own personal stories. I read all comments and I will get back to you. Let me know what you guys think. Check out my blog site, dweezy2blessed.wordpress.com. Follow me on Twitter, DWEZY2_blessed, or follow me on Instagram, DWEZY2blessed. Add me on Facebook, DWEZYMENSAH, and I think that's pretty much all of my social media. But yeah, just hit me up, guys. Like, let's have a community. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for any fame or fortune or all of that. I just want to help people, and I enjoy this stuff. And so, thanks for watching. Done.